Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I wish I could tell you, it's Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio. I wish I could tell you that it was going to be an easy week. It's not. It's going to be a freaking disaster. Because yesterday at 6 p.m., Senate Democrats decided that their political interests outweighed the interests of a country on fire. They stopped a fire truck en route to the fire. They blocked a rescue package at a critical moment. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi pulled the rug out from underneath the entire American people, and millions of people will lose their jobs as a result, and businesses will fail. And it is Chuck Schumer's fault, and it is Nancy Pelosi's fault, and it is the fault of 47 Democratic senators who would not vote to advance a rescue package that is urgently needed. More than $1.5 trillion. It helps everybody who is reeling. It stops the bleeding. It would have calmed markets. It would have kept people employed. And they blocked it. They blocked it. Here is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, cut number 14, on the floor of the Senate last night, laying out exactly what happened.
I'm told the futures market is down 5%. I'm also told that that's when trading stops. So the notion that we have time to play games here with the American economy and the American people is utterly absurd. So I want to explain what just happened. Our good friends on the other side would not have been disadvantaged one bit if this vote had succeeded, because it would have required potentially 30 more hours of discussion, during which these seemingly endless negotiations could go on as long as they would like. Now, the build-up to this, so everybody fully understands, is that we had a high level of bipartisanship in 5 different working groups over the last 48 hours, where members who were participating were reaching agreement. And then all of a sudden, the Democratic leader and the Speaker of the House shows up. And we're back to square one. So we're fiddling here, fiddling with the emotions of the American people, fiddling with the markets, fiddling with our health care. The American people expect us to act tomorrow. And I want everybody to fully understand, if we aren't able to act tomorrow, it'll be because of our colleagues on the other side continuing to dicker when the country expects us to come together and address this problem. Now, I changed my vote, which gives me the opportunity to move to reconsider at a later time. That's all I can do in the face of this obstruction. Look, I can understand obstruction when you're trying to achieve something. This obstruction achieves nothing whatsoever, other than prevent us from getting into a position where there are literally 30 more hours that they could use to continue to dicker. So at a time when the country is crying out for bipartisanship and cooperation, and we saw that over the last 48 hours when regular members of the Senate, not in the leadership office, not in the Speaker's office, for goodness sake, she's the Speaker of the House, not the Speaker of the Senate. We don't have one. We were doing just fine until that intervention. So I want the American people to fully understand what's going on here. The markets are already reacting to this outrageous nonsense. We have an obligation to the American people to deal with this emergency and to deal with it tomorrow. And if we don't, I want everybody to fully understand, you've seen everybody who's on record. Now, I've conspicuously avoided trying to turn this into any kind of partisan effort for 2 days. But it's pretty clear what's going on here. And we'll have this cloture vote again at some point of my choosing, and hopefully some adults will show up on the other side of the room and understand the gravity of the situation and the need to act before the markets go down further and the American people become even more depressed about our lack of ability to come together under the most extraordinary circumstances. We've never been confronted with anything like this before. It's totally different. And we're not immune to it in terms of the public health risk. Coronavirus has hit the Senate today as well. We have 5 members in self-quarantine. So everybody understands the emergency, particularly when it hits close to home. It's not just back in our states, but right here in the Senate. So I would say to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, step up. Step up. Help us reach an agreement so we can do what needs to be done for the American people.
Call your Democratic senators and tell them to lift the blockade on this desperately needed rescue package. The Senate switchboard is 202-224-3121. Over at my Twitter link, I've posted a way to find out who represents you, but you should know the 3 states that are reeling the most, that are getting the most help, that the president spent the most time talking to their governors yesterday and directing FEMA to help them, are New York, Washington State, and California. Governors Cuomo, Inslee, and Newsom are all Democrats. All 3 of those states have Democratic senators, and their rescue package is being held up. But it's not just them. Every small business in America is close to shuttering if they depend upon people walking in the front door, because people aren't walking in the front door. Every small business is at a minimum deeply impacted. I run one. I run the Nixon Foundation. I got 40 people at home. I've kept them on the payroll. Praying that we can reopen. We make our money from admissions and from donations and from the sale of merchandise and from the rental of facilities to groups that wish to use them. It's shuttered, and it has to be. I'm not complaining about that. And I've got enough cushion that I can keep people on the payroll for a time. And I think most businesses in America want to keep their employees on the payroll for a time. Everybody needs this rescue package, and the Senate Democrats blocked it last night at 6 p.m. It's enormous. It's massive. It would have turned everybody's emotional state around, their readiness to endure, their willingness to believe that the window was open, the money was flooding the country, and Democrats decided for their own particular partisan political reasons that I cannot fathom. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer decided to tank the economy today. It had been reeling for a week. It was getting its footing. Science is getting its footing. The country is getting its footing. Testing will be caught up. There is a very, very promising, according to Governor Cuomo and President Trump, combination of 2 drugs. I spent 2 hours talking to a toxicologist on Saturday telling me why and why it might not work. I am not as optimistic as them, but somewhat optimistic. And along come the Democrats, and they decide to make this a political moment. It's like telling FDR, no, we're not going to respond to Pearl Harbor. It's like telling George W. Bush and Barack Obama, no, we're not going to respond to the Great Recession, but it is worse than the Great Recession. By far. It is a 20 to 40% shrinkage of GDP, maybe more in 1 quarter. We need this bill. Call Schumer. Call Durbin. 202-224-3121. Demand they act. They've already wasted 12 hours. Demand they act. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'll be right back.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
To me, it's not very complicated. We have to help the worker. We have to.
Welcome back. I'm Hugh Hewitt. In 30 years of broadcasting, I've never seen anything like this. It is worse than the Clarence Thomas hearings. It is worse than the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. It is worse than the first failure of TARP to pass in 2008. What the Senate Democrats did at 6 o'clock yesterday afternoon is outrageous, appalling, disgusting, despicable. You can call the Senate 202-224-3121. This is an emergency. The country is on fire, and they stopped the fire truck. They stopped the fire truck. President Trump, in his press conference last night, interesting, discursive, stupid questions from the media again, great questions from the media again. My old friend Bill Press asked a very good question, an important one. The one, the only, the wrong Bill Press asked, can undocumented workers get tested without fear of being picked up and deported? And the answer was yes. Good question, Bill. Good question. Answer, Vice President Pence. That's the short form of both question and answer, but it was yes. Go get tested. We are in the middle of a pandemic. People are going to die. There are 30,000 plus cases in the United States, almost 500 deaths, and we are 2 weeks behind the Italian curve. Businesses are shuttered. There is a fire truck, a hose full of money coming, and the Senate Democrats stopped it because of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. 202-22-43121. Call up Schumer. Call up Durbin. Scream at him. Don't use profanity. Don't threaten them. Just scream at them. Are you out of your minds? I've written 3 columns for the Washington Post. They're all posted at hughhewitt.com. One on Wednesday, one on Friday, one on Sunday. Urging my team, the Republicans, get out of the way, get it done, battle stations, whatever anybody wants. If war bonds would work, beat the bug bonds. I want to help. Everybody wants to help. How do we help? We're going to have to spend more money than I ever thought as a Republican I could endure spending. I thought an $850 billion stimulus was waste. But this time I think I know it'll work because it's going to go to employees and employers. It's going to go to hospitals. Not going to unions, public employee unions. It's not going to make work jobs. It's going to people who had full employment economy. The economy's at full employment. And the Democrats stopped it. You know what I'm going to do today, by the way? This is a sponsor ad. I'm going to buy Birch Gold today because I do not trust these Democrats to save this market. They have shown their true colors. They want to crash the market. That is, every pattern of facts leads to a conclusion. The Democrats want to crash the market. They want a depression. They think they'll get FDR or Obama out of it. That's the only explanation for this. other than sheer, I should rule out, I cannot rule out sheer stupidity. Chuck Schumer, after all, got rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court justices with Neil Gorsuch, so I can't rule out just plain dumb. Nancy Pelosi, just plain bitter. I know she hates the president, I get that. I don't care who hates who. The country's on fire. But I'm going to buy Birch Gold, and if you don't have any gold, you should call them or just text them. 47 47 47. Text my name, Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 47 47 47. Or go to hughgold.com. Because gold is up this morning. It's probably the only asset that I don't even know if Amazon. I own Amazon. I just said, oh, I'll be fine. Amazon's going to kill the market. It's going to just, nothing's going to happen to Amazon. But I see, I don't know where the market's going to go today. Japan was up 2% overnight. That's what we should be. But the 10 years down below 1% again. The headline is Global Markets Struggle as U.S. coronavirus bill stalls. Did you hear that? The bill stalled and markets are collapsing. Democrats wanted this. Democrats get it. Only gold is up. All right. Gold is up to $14.96.80. It's the only thing I trust other than Amazon stock. I don't even trust Netflix because their bandwidth isn't enough for the number of people at home, but I trust Amazon and I trust gold. Birch Gold. Text my name, Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 47 47 47. They got a minimum purchase requirement. Talk to them about that or switch some of your IRA over. Because if the Democrats want to crush the economy, they're doing their damnedest to make it happen. And it's Democrats, never forget. Their least finest hour was Sunday night. They abandoned the country on Sunday night. Democrats did that. Schumer, Durbin, Pelosi, they did that. Stay tuned. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio inside a spooky Beltway. And I am angry. I'm joined by Mike Allen, Mike of Axios AM. Mike, I have never been this angry in 30 years of broadcast. And so I don't want your analysis. I'd like your facts this morning. I run the Nixon Foundation. I got 40 people who I have not laid off. I've been waiting for this bill. I'm hoping that this bill has relief so I do not have to lay anybody off. And the Senate Democrats blocked the rescue package. Have you laid anybody off at Axios?
We haven't, and Axios, as you are with your broadcast, is adapting. So last week we did our first virtual event, did a briefing with 4 Axios experts, plus a live remote with Mark Penn on the latest coronavirus polling, a way to connect with people who, as you know, from hearing from your own listeners across all your many platforms, including your column and your TV appearances, people are ravenous for sanity insight. Last night's Axios on HBO, where you saw that captivating interview by Jonathan Swan of the U.S. ambassador, China's ambassador to the U.S., an astonishing interview. That was a mostly virtual episode. Jonathan Swan interviewed the ambassador Ted Koppel style, Jonathan live at our offices in Arlington, Virginia, the ambassador across the river. And so we're pivoting, and so many businesses, small and large, Hugh, are doing the same. They're trying to adapt, and picking up on your rant that has been burning my ears, as my mother would say, is Washington needs to do the same.
Mike, I am actually, I'm beside myself that they would stop a procedural vote. This rescue package is everything to small business and employment. Let me play just one quick cut of the president. It's cut number 16.
But to me, it's not very complicated. We have to help the worker. We have to save the companies.
That's it, Mike. We have to help the worker. We have to save the companies. $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion worth of aid, and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi shut it down. What the hell is wrong with them?
Hugh, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
Yeah, be careful. I honestly, Mike, I don't think there is anybody out there who wants to hear the other side of this unless you know for sure what they're thinking is, because there is no excuse for this. It's despicable.
So you're advocating haste in government. You wouldn't wait one more day.
No, the House is on freaking fire. It is on fire. You know, I've got 40 people whose lives depend upon a decision I make this week, and they shut down the Senate when they could have moved forward. McConnell is as mad as I am. I've been writing to the Republicans, get out of the way, pass the Pelosi bill. I argued with Tom Cotton. McConnell cleared the decks. The Republicans did everything. The president will sign anything. And Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi shut it down. I will never forget this. Never forget what they did, Mike. I am so angry.
So Hugh, I have good news for you. Help is on the way. So Axios AM, which is popping into your email at this moment, new reporting from Jonathan Swan, popping up on Axios.com. President Trump, we're calling it early signs of a coming Trump pivot. Trump wants to get America back to work. So you saw last night that he tweeted, and I love your tweet music, we cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. At the end of the 15-day period, and as you know, that began a week ago, March 16th, last Monday, we will make a decision as to which way to go. And this was important, Hugh. Yesterday, Vice President Pence signaled this change in tone. He said the CDC would issue guidance today letting people who are exposed to the coronavirus return to work earlier by wearing a mask for a certain length of time. And Hugh, what matters here, Jonathan's reading between the lines, these are the strongest public signals we've seen. The administration is looking for ways to get people out in the world again, to fire up the economy, and maybe even sooner than some of the medical people would want. And senior Trump officials, including Trump himself, Jonathan says, have only limited patience for keeping the economy shut down. They're watching stocks tumble and unemployment skyrocket, and that's why you're going to see this change in tone.
Mike, I can't. I cannot reopen my museum. I cannot put 40 people back to work. It will not happen to bars and restaurants. They will not reopen that. Those small, and the airlines are not going to get people to fly. People are afraid to fly. It's not going to happen. The Congress needs to pass this freaking bill. Do you have any reporting on whether or not the message gotten through that Schumer and Pelosi have done the worst thing of their political lives? They made the worst calculation of their political lives. Have you got any reporting on that?
Well, you saw the market reaction to that, and something that a little behind the curtain here, Axios Markets editor Deanne Rabowen, he says to his readers this morning, "I'm sorry my newsletter is depressing." And he points out here, Congress's failure to pass a major stimulus program illustrates once again how dysfunctional our government has become.
That's a lie. Stop, Mike. Stop. I won't let you read that. That is a lie. You should retract that from Axios. The Congress worked. Mitch passed Nancy's thing. Okay. Democrats shut this down. Democrats are dysfunctional. Democrats did this.
Hugh Hewitt on record saying that Washington is working in perfect synchronicity.
I know on record Hugh Hewitt is saying that it was working last week. Mitch McConnell made it work. They took the Nancy Pelosi bill and passed it, and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi shut it down. Your account in Axios is, I never use the term fake news. It is wrong, Mike. It is not Congress. It is the congressional Democrats. They stopped it. So you as a journalist should go and correct that, because it is not Congress. It is the congressional Democrats. That is a matter of fact. They refused to proceed to the motion to debate. They cost us 30 hours, at least 30 hours of market turmoil. And honest to goodness, this is reporting.
You would say that over the last 3 years, President Trump...
No, Mike, it's not about the last 3 years. Tell me what you would say about last night at 6 o'clock. What's Mike Allen say about last night at 6 o'clock when 47 Democrats said they did not care this country was on fire?
I'm just asking you if you agree that President Trump, over the last 3 years, and even over the last 3 weeks, has built continuing bridges to Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer.
Mike, that is a deflection. That is a deflection. I am asking you if last night at 6 o'clock the Senate Democrats did the right thing in your opinion.
So, Hugh, here I'm here for reality and facts and reporting, and I understand your rant and I understand your point of view.
It's not a rant. It is an angry reporting. It is reporting a fact. 47 Democrats said no.
The way that our system is set up, as my grandma would say, it takes two to tango, and leaders need to work together in crisis and in other times, and that's the way the system is built. And I know that, and I know that you know that.
No, I know what you know. I know that you know that there are moments of crisis when people come together and put down their blue and red swords and do the right thing. Mitch McConnell did that last week with the Pelosi bill. He rolled his own caucus. He insisted they pass it. Then it came turn for Schumer to do the same thing, and Schumer said no because Nancy Pelosi said no, and nobody doesn't understand this, Mike. Everyone's credibility depends upon their telling the truth at a moment of urgent crisis. That's right now. So last question, is it going to change today? Are the Democrats going to get it today?
I can tell you that President Trump said yesterday he's optimistic that this will be worked out even after that had occurred. He said he doesn't see any problems. So he said on camera that he thinks that this will all work out, and we will see because today, a little behind the scenes, today they have scheduled their briefing for 5:30 p.m., so they've decided not to do the briefing while the markets are open this time.
I will check back with you next week, Mike, but the reporting is the reporting. The Senate Democrats killed it. I hope that I see that in Axios. I count on Axios. I read it every day, Axios AM. But I ain't going to read stuff that won't report the truth. And so I'm hoping you continue to, as you always have, report the truth. I hope everybody does. The New York Times did last night. Senate Democrats obstruct block. That was their term. Block the rescue bill. Even the New York Times.
Hugh, we had the exact same headline on Axios.
That's what I mean. I'm counting on it.
Thing.
I'm counting on it. I don't want any other story. The only thing that matters in Washington, D.C. is that bill. Nothing else matters to people who are employed and hanging on by their fingernails. It's that bill. Mike Allen, always a pleasure. Follow him on Twitter at Mike Allen. 1-800-520-1234, America. What do you think? 1-800-520-1234. I am so angry because I have people's lives, their livelihoods in my control. I have to decide whether we can gut it out, whether we can just gut it out and dip into reserves and spend down and not do this and not do that to keep people working. I needed to know about that bill. And I am not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of CEOs out there who need to know what's in that bill. Hundreds of thousands. And you know what they're going to do? Because of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they're going to lay people off. I haven't made that decision yet, but if nothing happens, I have to. They're going to lay people off. Millions of people are going to lose their jobs because of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They are crashing the market. 1-800-520-1234. You can call up and scream at me if you're a Democrat. You can try all your talking points. I watch Cory Booker. MSNBC's afraid to put on anyone who actually will tell the truth. They are afraid to tell their audience the truth. CNN is afraid to tell their audience the truth. Democrats tanked this bill. Mitch McConnell was on the floor last night. I watched every minute of it. I was awake at 3:30 in the morning because I am so angry at what they are doing to innocent people. Democrats, independents, Greens, Green New Deal people. It's just a naked political calculation by the worst calculators I have ever seen. And people know it. They know it. I'm going to have to walk 16 miles today to blow off steam. Here's my relieffactor.com. My Icarian Curcumin resveratrol and omega ran 6 miles on Saturday, social distancing all the way. Bring it around, people. You dummies, you can't run in packs of 5 or 6. You got to run alone. Mike Gallagher went out and ran alone too, but you can run, you can walk, you can find places to go. President Trump said nice things about Bill de Blasio last night, trying to get him like Andrew Cuomo is. Shut the streets in New York. No one's driving anywhere. Shut half of them so people can walk and not be crowded into Central Park. But whatever you do, get outside, get air, get walking. All right, relieffactor.com will help you with, if you have never been a walker or a runner and you've always been a gym rat, you can't go to the gym. Relieffactor.com is for you. Temporary support, support for the temporary relief of minor aches and pains. Go out. You got to keep moving. You got to keep doing stuff. Keep the body moving. You're not hurt. Nobody's hurt who doesn't have the virus. We got 30,000 cases of the virus in the United States. Vast majority of Americans don't have it. It's going to grow exponentially. But you need relieffactor.com. $19.95 gets you started. Salena Zito is next. The fire dragon continues to breathe because, boy, oh boy, did they screw up. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, TheReliefFactor.com, and I am steamed. I am joined by Salena Zito. She is of the Washington Examiner and the New York Post. Salena, good morning.
Good morning to you.
All right, here's the deal. Senator Bob Casey is one of the Democrats who voted to lay off millions of people last night by blocking the rescue package. What do Yinzers think about Senator Bob Casey obliging businesses to fire people by blocking a rescue package?
This is appalling. That's not even a strong enough word. What happened last night was just absolutely stunning, and people are not going to forget this. You know, politicians have this tendency to think, oh, well, you know, there's too much stuff going on. They'll forget about this, you know, blah, blah, blah. There are moments when you are called to rise to the occasion. You are called to put your party affiliation off. You're supposed to take your team jersey off, and you're supposed to do the right thing and vote for your constituents. Vote for the people who put you in office to represent them, not to represent a party. And what happened last night was a really dark moment for the Democratic Party. You know, in the moments, in the days leading up to this vote, you know, there was really, you had the sense that everyone was going to, that there's going to be a package that came out. It was going to come out last night, and that they were going to all come together, even if there were things in there they didn't want. No, that's not what happened. And I don't think that they understand the gravity of what they have done in a moment when we are in such a perilous predicament, and they just turned their back on their constituents for their party.
For what? And by the way, stupidly, it's not going to work. Everybody knows Democrats killed the rescue package. It's like an ambulance was on the scene where someone is dying, and a rogue cop pulls it over and shakes down the driver. That's Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are the rogue cops. They're shaking down the ambulance driver.
Yeah, absolutely. What they have done, we've had so much done to us as a country, and we have pretty much rode this really tough week out together. And what they have done to us this morning, what it's going to do to our jobs, to our 401ks, which were already destroyed, and they have just added on to that. And I can't believe that they did this.
No, they did it to crash the market. I only think that Nancy Pelosi could possibly think that she is somehow, she hates Trump so much she's blind, and she controls Schumer, who is not, he's never going to win the spelling bee. I honestly thought all week long, you heard me say, not only flatten the virus curve, flatten the partisanship curve. Mitch McConnell did that. I did that. You did that. Everybody did it. And the critical moment arrives, and Democrats revert to, how do we get more Democrats elected out of this? Crash the markets.
Yeah. You know, and Pelosi was oddly silent all week. So that gave you the belief that she was in this. She was going to be part of this. She was just going to put her head down and do the right thing for the country, and take, you know, her members along with the Senate, and you know, they're going to all do the right thing. This morning we should have been talking about look what Congress did. They stepped up. They did the right thing. There's some hard choices.
Help is on the way. We should be saying help is on the way this morning, but it's not.
Sure. No, we're saying we're stuck on this island, and you guys just took the boat and left us here.
Bob Casey, I know the Senate switchboard is 202-224-3121. Will he hear from Pennsylvanians today? Will he hear from small business? You've written a few columns about the people running for Congress, Democrat and Republican, trying to help. I don't want them at the Salvation Army. I think it's great. I want them to vote on a massive rescue package. Will they hear?
Oh, I sent a note to Bob Casey last night. I was horrified that he made this decision.
Well,
He was absolutely horrified. But you know what? He's drank the Kool-Aid. He had a tweet the other day that there were more people that had guns than had the ability to get a test for the coronavirus.
what in the world does that have to do with anything that his job involves?
I have no idea, but I sent him a note.
All right,
I don't think he
Salena,
heard
go
it.
out and talk like you do. Go out and ask businesses if they know that Democrats blocked the rescue package. That's my
phone
job
call
today.
started last night.
I want everybody listening to this show to tell 10 people Democrats blocked the rescue package. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Dick Durbin, Kirsten Gillibrand, both senators from Washington State, both senators from California, they all blocked the rescue plan. They all stopped the fire truck. I have no idea what their explanation is going to be. They're causing millions of layoffs. Democrats did that, and I will be back to tell you that again after the break. Morning, Glory America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Week 2 of the Great American Shutdown. The virus rages. There are 30,000 plus cases in America. Close to 5 million people have died. The economy is in significant collapse. The Federal Reserve and I think St. Louis said expect 30% unemployment in a matter of weeks. We need the rescue bill. And yesterday afternoon, 6 p.m., Senate Democrats shut it down. That is the one story inside the Beltway. Why did Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi block the rescue bill? It's outrageous. It will cause layoffs from businesses holding on by their fingernails. With this sort of attack, questioning on tonight's, what is it? What is their rationale? They have none except their perception that they get some partisan advantage out of this. And markets are going to just get hammered. And businesses are going to give up. They're going to say, tried, waited a week. Everyone told me. I thought they would get it done. I wrote 3 columns for the Post, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, urging Republicans to do whatever you had to do. Say yes to everything they wanted, and they did. They said yes, yes, yes. They wouldn't take yes for an answer, and they still blocked the rescue bill. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are responsible for you losing your job this week. If you lose your job this week, it is Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer who fired you. It is not your business. If you lose your job this week, Chuck Schumer fired you. If you lose your job this week, Dick Durbin fired you. If you lose your job this week, Bob Casey in Pennsylvania fired you. If you lose your job this week, Senate Democrats fired you. Not your employer. They were hanging on, waiting for a rescue bill. That the Senate Democrats and Nancy Pelosi pushing them push off the road. This is not a complicated situation. The president summed it up in 10 seconds, cut number 16.
To me, it's not very complicated. We have to help the worker. We have to save the companies.
We have to help the worker. We have to save the companies. Senate Democrats said, screw the worker, let the companies go bust. We could get a couple extra people elected this way, maybe. Maybe this will help Joe Biden and we can all get our jobs back. Being, big feathers. Being, important. Having chauffeured limousines. Getting cabinet secretaries back. Our staffers will be better off. We'll be connected if we can beat Trump. If we have to crash the country, we'll get, a 1932 FDR. We'll get Obama in 2008 if we crash the economy. People are dying. People are dying. And Senate Democrats stopped money from getting to hospitals. People are dying and losing their jobs, and Senate Democrats blocked it, and nobody else. 47 Republicans said yes. 4 Republicans couldn't be there, or 5 because they are in quarantine. Rand Paul has the virus. Mitch McConnell went to the floor of the Senate. Here's what he said, cut number 14. He is angry.
I'm told the futures market is down 5%. I'm also told that that's when trading stops. So the notion that we have time to play games here with the American economy and the American people is utterly absurd. So I want to explain what just happened. Our good friends on the other side would not have been disadvantaged one bit if this vote had succeeded, because it would have required potentially 30 more hours of discussion, during which these seemingly endless negotiations could go on as long as they would like. Now, the buildup to this, so everybody fully understands, is that we had a high level of bipartisanship in 5 different working groups over the last 48 hours, where members who were participating were reaching agreement. And then all of a sudden, the Democratic leader and the Speaker of the House shows up. And we're back to square one. So we're fiddling here, fiddling with the emotions of the American people, fiddling with the markets, fiddling with our health care. The American people expect us to act tomorrow. And I want everybody to fully understand If we aren't able to act tomorrow, it'll be because of our colleagues on the other side continuing to dicker when the country expects us to come together and address this problem. Now, I changed my vote, which gives me the opportunity to move to reconsider at a later time. That's all I can do in the face of this obstruction. Look, I can understand obstruction when you're trying to achieve something. This obstruction achieves nothing. Nothing whatsoever, other than prevent us from getting into a position where there are literally 30 more hours that they could use to continue to dicker. So at a time when the country is crying out for bipartisanship and cooperation, and we saw that over the last 48 hours when regular members of the Senate, not in the leadership office, not in the Speaker's office, for goodness sake, she's the Speaker of the House, not the Speaker of the Senate. We don't have one. We were doing just fine until that intervention. So I want the American people to fully understand what's going on here. The markets are already reacting to this outrageous nonsense. We have an obligation to the American people to deal with this emergency and to deal with it tomorrow. And if we don't, I want everybody to fully understand, you've seen everybody who's on record. Now, I've conspicuously avoided trying to turn this into any kind of partisan effort for 2 days. But it's pretty clear what's going on here. And we'll have this cloture vote again at some point of my choosing. And hopefully, some adults will show up on the other side of the room and understand the gravity of the situation and the need to act before the markets go down further and the American people become even more depressed about our lack of ability to come together under the most extraordinary circumstances. We've never been confronted with anything like this before. It's totally different. And we're not immune to it in terms of the public health risk. Coronavirus has hit the Senate today as well. We have 5 members in self-quarantine. So everybody understands the emergency, particularly when it hits close to home. It's not just back in our states, but right here in the Senate. So I would say to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, step up. Step up. Help us reach an agreement so we can do what needs to be done for the American people no later than tomorrow.
Now, America, listen to me. Never forget. When the country needed the Congress most, at a moment of desperation for employees and businesses alike, Senate Democrats and House Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, stopped the rescue package cold and put partisan calculations of party ahead of country. That is fact. That is not up for debate. It was 47 to 47 to advance the bill to where it could be voted on. Standing rules of the Senate. You need 60 votes. And not one Democrat voted to advance the rescue package of $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion. Let Rome burn. That was the Democrats last night. Let Rome burn. The Capitol Hill switchboard is 202-224-3121. Call up Chuck Schumer. Call up Dick Durbin. Do not threaten. Do not use profanity. And tell them how despicable that is, that they chose to let Rome burn. My number is 1-800-520-1234. The whole freaking world economy depends upon our economy. And Democrats chose to let the world burn. I can't even tell you what's going to happen in places like Venezuela and Kenya and Brazil and the favelas. I can't even begin to tell you what's going to happen in the Dominican Republic. I've got a Food for the Poor banner at the top of HughHewitt.com begging you. Feed starving families. Americans are generous. We can't do anything if the economy is dead. And the Democrats put one bullet in the head last night by blocking a rescue package. Like shooting the tires out of an ambulance. That's what the Democrats did last night. Never forget what they did last night. I'll be right back.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I'm telling you, the number for Congress is 202-224-3121. You can call Speaker Pelosi's office. Never be profane. Never make a threat. Don't raise your voice like I've been raising my voice. But tell Senator Schumer, who leads the Democrat, this is despicable. What they have done is despicable. The country is on fire, which means the world is on fire, and they shot the tires out of the fire truck. They did. They just stopped it. Sean in Columbus, what do you say? 30-second rule, Sean. You get 30 seconds.
I'll do it fast. We loved your exchange with Mike Allen, but it's about time. You're the most respected talk show host. It's time you wake up, and these, quote, journalists you speak with every week, they're nothing but partisan hacks.
That's not true about Mike. It isn't. He is not a partisan hack.
Not about Mike. Mike's a good guy, but I'm talking specifically about Chuck.
Don't even say it. Don't even say it. I'm not trashing people. The only people who have failed to rise to the moment are Senate Democrats and Nancy Pelosi. Mary, Tampa Bay. 30 seconds, Mary.
Hi, I heard they didn't pass the bill because it wasn't enough money, but I swear I always remember the words, by all means necessary, 6 ways till Sunday from Chuck Schumer, Bill Maher. If it takes a recession to get Trump out, that's what we'll do. It just seems like something else is going on besides just the virus.
Of course it is. It is despicable.
Yep.
This was partisan politics at a moment when people are going to lose their job. And I repeat, if you just tuned in, at 6 o'clock last night, Democrats shot out the tires of the rescue bill. And if you get laid off this week, if your market crashes, it's because Senate Democrats shot out the tires of the rescue bill. Thank you, Mary. Jerry in Michigan, 1-800-520-1234. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. Jerry? Jerry, turn down your radio, doggone it. How long you been listening to me? What, 30 years and you still don't know how to turn down your radio when you're on hold?
Hello?
Jerry, goodbye. Marianne in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Marianne.
Hey, thanks so much, Hugh. My husband and I appreciate you. We pray for you, and
Thank
I
you.
agree with you completely. And as soon as the switchboard opens this morning, I'm going to be calling those Democrat senators.
Bob Casey. Pat Toomey voted the right way.
He did.
Pat Toomey voted the right way to advance the rescue bill. It's a rescue bill. It is people are going to get fired if they do not get help today. And they needed help. They could have had help today. They could have had help this weekend. Democrats are out of their mind. They're out of their minds. I do not know what they're thinking. 1-800-520-1234 connects you to me. 202-224-3121 connects you to the Senate switchboard, and you ought to be calling them right away. Mary Lou in Florida. How are you, Mary Lou?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to say that the only way that the Schumer is cutting off his nose of redistribution of wealth to spite his face is because he exhibits all 5 symptoms of Trump derangement syndrome.
He's got that. I got you. I agree with you. They hate Trump. They hate Trump, but I would never have thought they would do this. I would never have thought it. Stephanie in Pennsylvania. Debbie in Pennsylvania. Sorry, Debbie.
Hi, Hugh. I left a message on Senator Casey's voicemail, and I told him that what he did was unconscionable because as a Catholic, he has heard at Mass over and over again Leviticus 19:16 that says, "Do not stand by idly when your brother's life is at stake." He has shown himself to be a clear-cut narcissist with all of this indifference to people suffering.
At bottom line, that's it. People are so overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed. And Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi turned their back on him, and Bob Casey agreed. People that I expect so much of put leverage and partisanship ahead of $500 billion of aid to people. What in the world are they thinking? They are not thinking. I talked with Chuck Grassley, he's chairman of the Finance Committee. I will ask him. He sat behind Mitch McConnell last night when Mitch McConnell laid the wood on the Senate Democrats for shooting the tires out of the rescue bill. We'll talk to Senator Grassley after this. Stay tuned.
Don't forget to sign up for the Huniverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.huniverse.com.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway in the ReliefFactor.com studio. Don't forget to sign up for DaybreakInsider.com if you want every bit of news every morning. DaybreakInsider.com. I'm joined now by Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. Mr. Chairman, welcome back. Good to have you on, Senator. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
I'm glad to be with you, and I'm very disgusted with the Senate Democrats for not moving this bill along so we can pass it today and get people back to work. And the reason I'm disgusted with them is because Democrats were at the table as we brought the bill together. And out of my task force dealing with the subjects of the Finance Committee, we were going to put money in the pockets of people that are, if they aren't unemployed today, they'll be unemployed tomorrow. Of $1,200 for an individual, $2,400 for a married couple, $500 for each child, and we went along with a big increase in unemployment compensation by $600 a month across the board for at least 3 months, and that's the number one ask of the Democrats, and I thought that was very important to do. And if I said $600 a month, I meant $600 a week. And so we had great cooperation with the Democrats in our task force to come up with these ideas. And that's not everything that we have in our task force in this bill. And then let me stop with this. So then, where does Schumer come from when he says that we got to do more for hospitals when we have an appropriation bill coming along with another $75 billion just for hospitals? And the other thing is, he says it's a bailout for corporations. What are corporations? There are a lot of people. 90% of them are probably employees. And in this tax bill, we have a lot of liquidity for these businesses to keep people on the payroll, and we have a big help for small business. Just think of 750,000 restaurant workers going to probably laid off already, and the Small Business Task Force has loan programs that are forgivable loans if the restaurants keep their people on the payroll. So this
Senator,
is all about jobs.
Senator, I when I get off the radio and put on my other hat, I run the Nixon Foundation. We run the Nixon Library, the private part. I have 40 people on my payroll. I have not fired anyone. I've been waiting for this bill. I am like thousands and tens of thousands of other small businesses. Senate Democrats shot out the tires of the fire truck last night. Why did they do it?
I don't know, because every Republican agrees. Everybody in the administration agrees, particularly Mnuchin speaking for him. We expect the country to be back to work, and this virus pandemic being over maybe in 3 months. If it's not, we've got to go back to the table and probably repeat some of the things we're doing right now. So why would the Democrats hold it up? There's no time to waste if you're unemployed.
Senator, there's no time to waste if you're an employer. You have to make decisions. Do they not? It's despicable. What they did is despicable. They shot the tires out of the fire truck. Did any of them look at you and tell you, sorry, Chuck, Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer told me I had to vote against the relief package?
No. And then I spoke after McConnell spoke last night, and I pointed out how everything was peaceful and cooperative in the task force I was working on.
Senator, when will we get another vote? When do they have a chance to undo? It's going to cost people jobs. They can stop the bleeding if they get back on board the bus. Will they get back on board today?
Well, I'm sure since McConnell filed a motion to reconsider the vote that failed yesterday, that yes, we're going to have a vote sometime today. I'm told the Senate's going in at noon, so within a short period of time afterwards, I think we're going to have a vote, and we have to have a vote. And I think in the meantime, the Democrats are going to find out that their lollygagging around is going to cause the stock market to tank again. The people are looking for leadership from Washington, D.C. They're sick and tired of the partisanship.
Not only will the stock market crash, Senator, people will get laid off. I honestly, it's so reprehensible. They have to know cause and effect. Everybody was waiting for this bill. It's what, $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion?
1.8 trillion, I think.
Oh my gosh, $1.8 trillion. That's almost 3 times bigger than President Obama's stimulus. We need it because the economy is in collapse, and they stopped it.
And
they stopped it.
Compared to what Schumer said about a week ago when he said we got to have a big package, his package was only $750 billion. So if you're 2.5 times that, you'd think he'd be satisfied. But he started out last night saying it's a corporate bailout. There's no bailout. We're going to lend corporations money so they can keep people employed. And don't forget, 60% of the people that are unemployed are going to come out of small business of less than 500 people. And don't you care about small business? And they showed last night they don't care about small business. More importantly, not just the business person, but they even care less about the people that are unemployed. And they don't think that Republicans are agreeing to $600 a week increase in unemployment over the next 3 months to help people over this hump of unemployment, and that was their idea. We went along with it without argument.
Senate Republicans passed without argument Nancy Pelosi's House bill last week. I know there was opposition. Was there not an expectation that partisanship would be put down during this national emergency? Did not the Senate Majority Leader go into the caucus and say we have to pass a flawed House bill because any hose will help when the fire is raging?
Yes, and at that point, we didn't even anticipate all this unemployment that's happening, and so it's even greater to get this done. Not only is it greater because of people being unemployed, but we have a feeling that the entire economy is going to shut down. And we're talking just about the United States, but the United States is 22% of the world economy. If we get our economy moving, it's going to help get the world economy moving.
Now, Senator Grassley, who is your best friend on the Democratic side? With whom do you have the greatest social relationship?
Well, let's put it this way, political relationship, because I don't claim to have a social relationship with any of my colleagues, because when I go home every weekend, there's not much of a chance to have social. But I get along very well with Senator Wyden of Oregon. He's the one that sat on the task force with me to work out this the parts of this big bill that McConnell put in that came out of the Finance Committee. We work very closely together. Not only that, but we have adopted the only bipartisan bill in the United States Congress that can get 60 votes in the United States Senate and reduce the price of prescription drugs, which is the number one, well, after this pandemic, it's the number one political issue that we hear from our constituents, sick and tired of big costs of prescription drugs.
Will you call up Senator Wyden for me and tell him if I have to lay off people this week, it's his fault? Will you just let him know it's his fault if I have to lay off people this week? And I think that there are hundreds of thousands of businesses that know it's Chuck Schumer and Ron Wyden's fault that if we have to lay off people, their fault.
I will do that, yes.
Now, I wanted to ask you about one idea that I put in a post column yesterday. No one knows whether or not it works. I don't know if it works. But in World War I and World War II, they sold Liberty and war bonds. Can we sell Beat the Bug bonds so everybody can help pay for this? That's what we've done before. Has anyone brought it up?
No, nobody has brought it up. Right now, we're worried about getting the economy going and getting the engine, the people that pay the taxes, get them back working so they can continue to pay their taxes. I don't know whether we're worrying about revenue right now, except the revenue that will come from an economy that's a fire like the Trump economy was when employment was at a 50-year high, unemployment at a 50-year low. That's what we got to get back to. You can talk about new taxes. I'm not going to find fault with you for suggesting those things, but what this country needs is an economy on fire, not more taxes. The taxes will come in when people are working.
I know bonds are voluntary. They're not taxes. I just want to know if I can voluntarily help somehow, like the war bonds used to do it in World War II and World War I. Last question for you, Senator. It's on the web. Do you believe the Democrats are handling this with the seriousness, thoughtfulness, and urgency it demands?
I did Friday and Saturday when we were working on the task force, and I still believe individual Democrats feel differently than Schumer, but they probably have to vote with him if he tells them to vote a certain way. But that was blown up yesterday, but I blame Schumer more than individual Democrats.
Are you an optimist that will change today? Can we, if markets, honestly, they have no idea what's going to happen. This is, millions of people are going to lose their jobs.
I am an optimist, yes. I think that eventually right wins out in Congress.
I hope you are right, Senator Grassley. Thank you for joining me as always. I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, goodbye.
I got to tell you, he's a good man. I'm speechless. I've been doing this for 30 years. If my party had done this, I would be screaming. I argued on the air with Thom Cotton last week. He did not like the Pelosi bill. I said, you're going to get rolled. We can't, it's about any port in a storm. Get in the bucket line. Get in the bucket line and throw water and sand on the fire. Come back and fix it later. Maybe beat the bug. Bonds will work. Maybe something else will work. A sinking fund. There are ways to pay for it. But put out the fire hose the country down with money. And Mitch McConnell stepped up to do that. And Chuck Schumer said no. Hey, look, I need your help with food for the poor. I really do. In America, at least I got food upstairs. I got food downstairs. I got food when I go home. I got food everywhere. Because I live in America, and we have a great food system. They got nothing in Guatemala. Food for the Poor gets them food and clean water. Feed starving children. The banner is at top of HughHewitt.com. Please be generous. Please be generous. Also, if you're going to be laying in coffee, go to honorboundcoffee.com and subscribe. 100% of the profits from Honor Bound Coffee go to help military families, and they need so much help right now. Families staying at home and their moms and dads are deployed. Fathers and mothers are deployed. They need your help. Honorboundcoffee.com. The profits from every cup of coffee go to save them. And don't forget relieffactor.com. If you're doing some kind of new exercise this week because your gym is shut down, you're going to use new muscle groups, you're going to be sore. Support for the temporary relief of minor aches and pains. Relieffactor.com, delivered direct to your door. $19.95 gets you started at relieffactor.com. Relieffactor.com. $19.95, great company, reliable. If and when aid ever comes, can religious groups get it? I'll ask David Cortman of Alliance Defending Freedom next. Stay tuned.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Alliance Defending Freedom.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio. I am despairing whether or not we're going to get the rescue package because Democrats shut out the wheels of the fire truck last night. But if it arrives, I want to know if everyone can get aid, and therefore I asked David Cortman of Alliance Defending Freedom to join me. He's one of their senior litigators, and he will be defending any package that includes aid for, let's say, a Christian bookstore, let's say a Christian college. Lots of businesses that operate are self-identified Christian businesses. David Cortman, if the relief pack, good morning, and thank you for joining me, David. Always great to have you on.
All right, good morning to you.
If the aid package ever gets passed, I don't know that it will, but if it does, and it includes in it aid for, say, Christian colleges, is it constitutionally defensible?
Yeah, it surely is. I mean, one of the things the court has said over and over again, and especially recently, is when you have these neutral government policies or programs, whatever have you, to protect a specific reason, you know, businesses are getting hit and people are not donating, they're not going out because of being held in place. It's absolutely constitutional to include religious groups with non-religious groups. And in fact, it would be hostile for the government to say, well, we're going to help everybody out there, all the bookstores out there, but not the religious bookstore. That would actually violate the Constitution to exclude them.
Now, in terms of the old jurisprudence, though, it says direct aid is not admissible. There will be standing for groups to challenge direct aid, right?
Well, standing's one question, so that's a good question. The court has pared that back lately. You know, what's an injury because the government does something that offends you? As you know, if the government spends money or tax money the way we don't like it, which it happens to everybody, you know, there's no injury there. So standing is one question, can I bring a case? But it's certainly clear that people will challenge it. There'll be groups like ADF there to say, look, you know, this is what the Constitution stands for. We don't treat religious organizations worse than everybody else. And so I think it's a pretty strong case going forward to defend that.
Now, do you expect that there would be an immediate challenge of any aid bill that did directly benefit a self-identified religious institution, Christian, Jewish, whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. There always is. There are always folks on the left. There are always folks that still hold that strict, you know, separation of church and state, that high and impregnable wall that we've read about, that in my opinion was wrong in the first place. And you know, it came in the 1940s in the Supreme Court case law, and I think that was wrong from the outset because it doesn't look at the history of our country. So there will always be people to challenge that, but the good thing is there's always people like ADF to come around and defend it.
Now, would there be a requirement that they challenge it inside the District of Columbia?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, they certainly may, but it depends where the aid goes. So there's a possibility of challenging it at specific locations, you know, wherever the aid happens to go. But we work not only all across the country, but all across the world. And so, you know, they'll do some what they call forum shopping. You know, they'll look for judges that they think are to be sympathetic. But that's an issue that always works its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, as we know. And I think there's certainly enough votes, maybe even 7, maybe 9, depending on the package, to uphold something like that.
Could the rescue bill include language requiring all cases be brought in a single court so as to prevent nationwide injunctions issuing from one of the crazier courts?
Well, you know, I think they can. And what's interesting, that is a big issue, as you mentioned, with these nationwide injunctions, where you get, you know, one sometimes district court, trial court level judge that strikes something down for the entire nation. In most instances, I think that's improper because it's one judge basically seals, you know, whatever that law is for the entire nation. I don't think that's correct. But yeah, I think that could certainly happen. And I think that's a way to fast track it too, if you will. You know, these cases take a long time sometimes to get to the Supreme Court, but if that's challenged, that's one of those you want fast track to work its way up so the court can rule on it, you know, fairly quickly because it's obviously a very important issue.
I'm talking with David Cortman, Senior Counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom, one of the frontline warriors in preserving religious liberty in the United States. David, what has happened to your life? Are the courts shuttered? Are they still hearing? Are you just writing and submitting on papers?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So, you know, ADF has done great because we're concerned, obviously, about everybody's health, both internally and externally. So everybody is working remotely. But, yeah, interesting. The courts, what they're doing is they're moving to paperwork. I had 6 or 7 hearings that were scheduled for the next several weeks. Every one of those has been canceled. They're either postponing them or they're ruling on the papers. They're filing things electronically. Some of them are doing phone conference. Some of them are doing video conference. Some of them not having it all. So it's really been interesting for the legal community. Even the Supreme Court, as most people know, has shut down to visitors, but they're still doing work internally, some of them by conference call, just to get the work done.
Now, I want to close by repeating the central question. There are so many great Christian colleges and universities out there. They are, like all colleges and universities, struggling. I am urging per capita tuition rebates to every college and university in the United States. If Congress does that and assists all universities, and that includes Christian colleges, is that constitutional?
It is constitutional, in my opinion, and ADF will certainly be there to defend any bill that does something like that. I think it's even-handed, neutral, and I think it's the right thing to do.
David Cortman of Alliance Defending Freedom, thank you. Just wanted to clear up one question. I'm studying this stuff, but thus far, no rescue bill because of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They shot the tires out of the fire truck last night. There is no indication. They got everything they wanted. And they got $1.8 trillion in relief for the world, starting in the United States Capitol. And Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi just sent layoff notices to millions of people. They just shut down thousands of businesses. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi did that. Call your senators, 202-224-3121, and let them know what you think in firm, outraged, but non-threatening, non-violent, non-profane language, but very direct. 202-224-3121.
Morning glory, America. We have lost Hugh and his connection to D.C. He will be rejoining us as soon as he can. I'm sure that nothing will make his mood any better than the fact that he can't communicate right this very second. Dwayne Patterson filling in just for a minute or two while we reconnect to his Virginia studio. Joining us, though, is North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis. Thom Tillis, thank you for being on the Hugh Hewitt Show. I cannot begin to tell you how angry we are at what the Senate Democrats and Nancy Pelosi did yesterday.
Yeah, well, you're a part of a growing group. I think the American people are, at the end of the day, going to reject it, and we'll see what the world thinks and what business thinks when Pelosi is willing to put the political priorities that she has above the people of the United States. That's
what is wrong with these people? Do they not understand that people are going to be laid off today because of this?
I've got to believe that they're smart enough to know that, and yet they're brash enough to hold them hostage for political priorities. I think that we have to hold firm. We've got a package that will stabilize the markets, assure the American people that they're going to have resources while we combat the virus. That's what this baseline bill did. It was not a conservative overreach. It was a reasonable compromise that the night before last we thought Pelosi and Schumer supported, and then yesterday they changed their mind. They're going to be held accountable to the American people.
A deal was in place, was it not? Basically, there was consensus. There was a deal in place. The Senate Democrats had negotiated this. And what ended up happening is because of Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats took a vote that basically they were for a bill before they were against it.
Yeah, we were told in the discussion on Saturday night that the Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer that we saw on Sunday were not the ones on Saturday night, that generally they had an agreement in principle. There's always minor details to work out, but they want to fundamentally shift this thing in the wrong direction, and that's what we got yesterday.
Is there any chance that they realize how badly they have overreached and miscalculated the reaction from the American people? Is there a chance that they are going to fix this today?
I think they're going to see an immediate reaction by the American people, by the stock market, and by businesses today, and hopefully before the end of the day we can get to an agreement and move on. We need to get this measure out today.
Is the Senate Majority Leader going to schedule another vote as soon as the opening prayer, the opening invocation?
I don't know if it'll be that soon. And that would actually be a good sign, because that means that maybe they're trying to break the logjam. But I do believe that Mitch is very, very focused on getting this done, and he's done a good job of keeping our conference up to date. So I would expect another vote today, and maybe more than one.
I would expect a vote. You people ought to vote 10 times on this in the next day or two, if necessary, to make the point known to the American people that it is Senate Democrats that are getting in the way of the most important vote of their careers.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that we will do everything that we can to make it clear to our colleagues that what's really disappointing to me is you walk down the hallway and you talk to some of these Democratic members. They know we need to do this. It's disappointing to me that the power has gotten concentrated in the hands of two people on the Democratic side. That's not the way the Republican conference runs. The agreement that we put together was negotiated in good faith with ranking members on the Democrat side, and we had members that had concerns with one measure or another, but we would never put our personal political priorities over the fate of the American people, and that's what Schumer and Pelosi are doing right now.
Senator, I'm going to hand it off. I'm going to hand it off to Hugh.
Who's do it now, Dwayne? I'm dialed in, so I wanted to ask the senator one question. And thanks for your patience with our working from home interruption, Senator. When will there be another vote?
Hugh, we're expecting one. I don't know at what time of the day, but we're expecting at least one more vote today. And there may be other measures based on whether or not Schumer and Pelosi are willing to move forward. We may have to take other tacks. I think the president will probably weigh in today. We're trying to do it in a spirit of compromise. But what they're asking for has nothing to do with what the American people need now.
Now, in terms of the ability to vote and vote again, I would bring up the motion for cloture again and again and again, because I don't think anyone has any doubt as to what happened here. They pulled out of an agreed upon, a massive bill. They shot out the tires of an ambulance or a fire truck, and people are going to get laid off because of that, and market's going to crash. I
agree. Well, you know how unanimous consent works. So one of the things that we'll do, or one of the things I'd suggest we do, if we can't get them to vote on the package, we'll go to every major. This would be a good time to educate the American people on what we're proposing. Every key aspect of the bill, we can go to the floor, spend 5 minutes explaining it, and then force them to object to it so that the American people know specifically what they're objecting to.
Well, I hope you do that. Is that the plan at the moment?
Well, at this point, Mitch is doing a good job of moving things ahead, but I think even Mitch would acknowledge that the American people need to know what's at stake. The American people need to know that resources going directly to individuals who are out of work could be there within a few weeks if this bill gets passed. Businesses would know that they could negotiate loans, get grants, and get resources that they need to keep their cash flowing for the next few months while we deal with this crisis. The banks would know that they could renegotiate loans, give forbearances, and give people a chance maybe a couple of months before they have to pay their bills with this package. The American people need to know what's in this bill. We can talk about the health care measures. We could talk about the small business measures. We could talk about the banking measures. The American people need to know that this is what Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are saying no to. And we have to get specific, and we have to do it today, and we have to get this bill passed.
Senator Tillis, I explained to Senator Grassley in the last hour, when I take off my radio hat and I put on my Nixon Foundation CEO hat, I got 40 people that I have to make decisions about. I need this bill to pass, so I know that we depend upon admissions and revenues, and they're not coming in. Everything is shuttered in California, as it should be. Everyone's on board. There are hundreds of thousands of businesses like me. Do your colleagues not know what they have done?
And they are putting at risk shuttering big businesses that have thousands of employees that they're going to send home. The small businesses, the mom and pop shops that don't get why Pelosi and Schumer would do this are about to shut down. And the concern that I have is some of them are never going to open again. If we don't give them certainty immediately so they can make the right decisions to stay afloat and to take care of their employees. The independent contractors, by the way, this is not just about businesses. This is about people who maybe a husband and wife that have a small business. They're independent contractors who are not going to be able to go to work because government is shutting down businesses, and we're trying to stabilize that. That's what this bill does. It's not a conservative overreach. In fact, it's got a lot of provisions in it that in an ideal time I could not support, but this is not an ideal time. This is a crisis, and we have to step up and lead.
And so I asked this of Senator Grassley, so I'll ask you, Senator Tillis, who is your closest friend across the aisle?
Well, I've got a couple of them that I'll be talking to, have been talking to, will be talking to today, but I'm not going to name names because right now, I'm trying to do my best to get them to kind of get through the fog of war. They're all human beings. Maybe some of them are not thinking rationally. I think that Schumer and Pelosi are thinking in a cold-hearted political way, and it has to stop. The others we've got to talk to and try to get those 8 or 9 votes that we need to get on the motion to proceed and then get this bill passed.
How can they possibly calculate this as a political benefit? I'm genuinely righteously angry, and it's been coming through, but I just don't even understand how they think they can get away with this, Senator.
It's a failure of leadership on their part. We've got to break through it and lead.
Thank you for joining us, Senator Thom Tillis. I'll be right back, America, on the technically challenged but still going Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Hugniverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.hugniverse.com.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway. Major denial of service attacks this morning, I think, but we'll just continue to carry on. Luckily, we got backup on top of backup. You know, also has backup, andrewandtodd.com there with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. And no matter what the markets do today, and it's going to be ugly because of the Democrats' decision, nakedly partisan, self-interested, destructive of the country and the national and the international best interest. But because of what the Democrats have done, markets will crash today. Because of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, markets will crash today because of them. And so when they do, you're going to see the 10-year Treasury drop even lower than the 0.94% it was going to open on this morning. And hopefully throughout the day, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi will deliver a surrender and say, "Oh, we got everything we wanted. Mistake. Forgive us." You know, that would be exactly what they should do. Exactly what they should do. But if they do, markets will rally quickly because the country's economy is very strong. If we can get through 2 months of sequestering and shuttering and squashing the virus, the economy will be fine if we don't have to lay off millions of people. But if the Democrats continue to blockade the rescue bill, we will. I don't know when we get back up. But, you know, gold is up nearly 3% this morning. But interest rates, what you want to do is go to andrewandtodd.com, fill out a couple of questions, answer a couple of questions. They'll get back to you and they'll get you right to the starting line. Because when markets stabilize, and eventually the Democrats will yield on this, they can't, their own voters are going to abandon them by the tens of millions because of this act of arson of the international and national interest. And when they figure that out, when you call 202-224-3121 and talk to your senator, they will give up. It will have wreaked enormous havoc on the country. But unless and until we get that done, you ought to go to andrewandtodd.com and get right up to the starting point. Right up to the starting point. Fill out all the forms. Let them figure out what's best for you. There will be a very encouraging interest rate situation, extremely so. So you should be ready to go. And the time to do that is today. You can call Andrew and Todd there with Sarah. They lend money. They're getting ready. They've got a huge pipeline. And they told me to tell you. I talked to them on Friday. Tell everyone that needs to get money out of their house or wants to buy an investment property right now, because the market will be very, it will reward those who take risks in real estate right now. Prices are going to be steady, if not dropping. Interest rates are going to be low when they stabilize. Call them at 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172, or go online to andrewandtodd.com. Now, I expect the market is going to look for any kind of signal that the Democrats have regained their mind. They lost their mind last night at 6 p.m. after a weekend of working. John Cornyn tweeted, "Where has she been?" Quote, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said House Democrats plan to introduce their own proposal. John Cornyn added, question, exclamation, asterisk. We'll be introducing our own bill, and hopefully it'll be compatible with what they discussed in the Senate, Pelosi said Sunday. She's trying to dodge what they did. There is nothing other than that to be said. She is trying to dodge what they did. And we ought not to let them do that. So in the meantime, one other request. The Democrats have tanked your 401k today. They may have cost you your job. But if you're not one of those people, think about people who have nothing to begin a crisis with. Food for the Poor takes care of them. Feed Starving Children is the banner at the top of HughHewitt.com. Please go there and be as generous as you can in a time of extraordinary need. It's an act of mercy. People are doing things they've never done before. I attended Mass yesterday virtually from the Catholic Information Center of DC, CICDC.org. And people are doing things they've never done before. Make a donation if you've never done it before at Food for the Poor, the Feed Starving Children banner, because you've got to do what you've never done before in this extraordinary time.
I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt on the Hugh Hewitt Show inside the Beltway in the ReliefFactor.com studio. Joined now by United States Senator John Thune of the great state of South Dakota. He is the GOP whip. He is the number 2 ranking Republican inside the caucus. Good morning, Senator Thune. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
You likewise. Good to be with you.
Well, tell me what happened. I have been pretty righteously angry this morning because I think what Democrats did last night was cost millions of people their jobs, hundreds of thousands of businesses their hope, and I do not understand it. What happened?
Well, it is a completely, totally irresponsible and reckless move. The country is burning, Hugh, and as you point out, I mean, we have a liquidity crisis out there. Big businesses are going to fail. Small businesses are already failing. And the Democrats are playing a political game. I mean, Chuck Schumer, this is it's like a normal, political season. And these guys just, we don't have the luxury of time. We have to get this done. The American people need us to act. They need us to act now, and they need us to act in a responsible way. And, we worked really hard the last several days to put together a plan that brings some relief not only to individuals and families, but to businesses, employees, workers. And last night was probably one of the saddest days I've seen in my time in the United States Senate.
I've been broadcasting for 30 years. I remember when TARP failed, I thought that was the low point of congressional ineptitude. This is much, much worse. And I speak as someone, as I told Senator Grassley and Senator Tillis, when my other hat is on, I run the Nixon Foundation. I got 40 people on the payroll with no one coming to our museum, no revenue from events. I have to decide what to do with them. I was waiting for this bill. And I think people are going to get laid off. Millions of people are going to get laid off because of what Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi did yesterday. Do they understand that?
Well, every single day that passes, we're going to lose more jobs, more workers, more businesses. And yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a full-blown fire that needs to be put out, and people are looking to Washington D.C. To do that. And we've got solutions here. We just need some Democrats who will step forward and buck their party's leadership and do the right thing for the country. I mean, we need some people over there with some backbone who are willing to say, I care more about what's happening in my cities and my state and this country than whatever it is, the political agenda that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are trying to hold out for here. This is a well-structured, well-thought-out plan, which they had lots of input in. This argument last night, Schumer got up on the floor and said this is a partisan bill. That is absolutely false. I mean, they had lots of input. This includes lots of Democrat priorities. This was put together in a very bipartisan way. I've been around here a long time, and I was involved in those working groups. And so all of a sudden, pulling the rug out at the last minute is just an incredible disservice to this country and to all the people out there who are just scared and fearful for their very lives. And I think we've got to act now. I'm hoping that they'll come to their senses this morning, and that supposedly Secretary Mnuchin is back here at 9:00 to resume negotiations with Schumer, and hopefully we'll get a path forward, Hugh. But this is a really, really low point for the United States Senate, for the Congress, and it's just a complete letdown of the American people.
When Senate Democrats shot out the tires of the fire truck, and that's the analogy I'm using, or they pulled over the ambulance, did any of them talk to you about what they perceived the political advantage to be? Because for the life of me, I try and always understand the other side. I know why they attacked Kavanaugh ruthlessly, and I think wrongly, despicably, but I know why they did it. I do not know why they did this. It's going to cost millions of jobs. I can't figure it out, Johnson.
I know. I try and put myself like you do in their heads and say, okay, what am I thinking here? And I know in this case, I think they laid down the law, and Schumer said, we're going to do this. And unfortunately, they all went along with it. But there are reasonable Democrats over there who I think get what's at stake here. And what's so unfortunate is we just didn't have a single one of them last night who broke and said, look, I'm not going to go along with this game. But I think this is, to them, an opportunity, as every, seems like, political crisis that comes along, Schumer and Pelosi try and exact part of their political agenda, things that they've been wanting to do for a long time, and use the crisis to try and achieve those things. And this just isn't the time to do that. I mean, this is a full-blown emergency for the country, and this economy is teetering out there. It needs a shot in the arm. It needs confidence, And the markets need confidence. The American people need confidence, and we just don't have any time to waste. And I can't. I'm hoping that last night, what people are hearing after that vote last night on the Democrat side will bring some of those reasonable Democrats to the table, and they'll decide to buck and defy their leadership and do the right thing for the country.
You know, one of my major markets, Senator Thune, is Cleveland, my hometown. And Sherrod Brown is not my favorite member of Congress, but he's a good man. And he knows that all throughout northeastern Ohio, maple syrup festival, 1 week economies, I call them. For 2 weeks in the spring, they have visitors by the thousands come. They will not be open. They will be devastated. Sherrod Brown knows what will happen. The bill does not provide them aid. How in the world, in good conscience, can he vote against it?
Well, that's a good question, and he was involved. He was one of the working groups, and you know, if you talk to the individual working groups and the Democrats that put the plan together, you know, you had a very different experience over the weekend. Well, then the leadership, it you know, elevates up to the leadership level, and Schumer gets a hold of it and sees a window of opportunity to play political games, to get other aspects or features or elements of their agenda done, and they use they use the crisis for that. And that's just, like I said, this is not the time to do that. This is not the normal political game where somebody wins, somebody loses. The only losers here are the American people, who are desperately looking for some certainty and want to see you know, their elected leaders restore confidence in this country and restore confidence in our financial markets, which by the day continue to erode and deteriorate. And if these big companies and by the way, they always talk about bailouts of big companies. These big companies employ thousands and millions of Americans who are going to lose their jobs unless we do something to get some liquidity into the marketplace and allow these small and large businesses to be able to keep people employed.
Now, Senator, futures have turned green. I don't know if Senator Schumer has indicated the political blowback must be intense. When the New York Times says Senate Democrats block rescue package, that is not a headline that you want to hear. I assume that the phones are ringing at the Senate switchboard 202-224-3121, and that I will never forget this. I have never been this angry because I know what's going to happen if this doesn't pass, and I know how much you guys gave last week. I just want to recover that. Did not Leader McConnell and you urge your colleagues to accept Nancy Pelosi's flawed bill in the interests of the country and bipartisanship?
We did, and it was painful for a lot of our members. I mean, there were things in there that, of course, we had no role in negotiating that. That was a Pelosi and Mnuchin deal, which many of our members had big problems with. But, you know, it was like, we don't have any choice here. We got to do this. And that's where the Democrats should be right now. But, you know, Pelosi got up here yesterday, and now she's talking about drafting their own bill in the House. I mean, how much time do they think we have here? This is just, it's insanity. And, you know, I mean, like I said, I kind of believe that based on what, you know, you're right. I mean, the phones will hopefully are ringing off the hooks. And by the way, thanks for sounding the alarm. But I hope that reasonable Democrats, you know, come to their senses here in the next few hours, and that we get this thing done before noon, because every day that gets away from us is a day lost in that many more thousands of people who are going to be out of work. Because, like you said, my state is like yours. I mean, when those small businesses shut down, that's the lifeblood, that is the heart and soul of the American economy, and it's happening every day.
Now, I understood, for example, restaurant chains which had many places of different number of employees. They were over 500 employees, but I understood that the legislation was going to take care of them if each of the location had less than 500 employees. That would have been a ball. I mean, they wouldn't have fired their people, right? They would have just kept them on the payroll.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, this thing has the way that particular provision was drafted allows those employees to be retained and those jobs to stay there, because once those people leave and those jobs go away, they may never come back. And so the way that this thing was designed was to allow those smaller businesses who you know, are trying to stay open to be able to pay the payroll for the next several weeks and hopefully get us through to a better time. And couple that with the unemployment insurance stuff, which was a big priority for the Democrats. That was something they got into the package that they really wanted. And the direct checks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that will create cash flow not only for individuals but for small businesses. And it is a travesty that we couldn't even get on the bill last night.
Well, let me close by asking you about something completely off topic. I wrote about it in the Post yesterday. I'm just curious, in Phase 4, this was Phase 3. It won't matter if we don't get this done, but if we get to Phase 4, in World War I, World War II, when there were massive challenges, the public participated via Liberty bonds and war bonds. Can we have a beat the bug bond? Can we somehow make citizens involved in this effort who want to help?
Yeah, I think that you are right. I mean, when we faced crises in the past, the American people have stepped up like they are this time around. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that same activity here in Washington. But I saw your piece yesterday. I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to figure out ways that we can involve and engage the American people in trying to continue to build and make this country strong and beat these enemies that, in this case, a deadly virus that's come to our shores. And we've proven we can do it in the past, and your Ronald Reagan quote is exactly right. If people will just forget about who gets the credit, we can. There's no limit to what we can do. And I hope that's the sentiment that kicks in here in the next few hours, and then whatever happens after this in terms of Phase 4, that it will be something that all of America can participate in. We can make the country stronger and get us by this.
You know, Senator, it will be such a tragedy if our scientists beat the bug in the lab and they find interventions as well as a vaccine, but there is no economy left to resuscitate because of what happened last night.
That is really, really worrying, and we are doing permanent, long-term, profound harm to the economy right now the longer we wait to do this. So it's critical.
Godspeed, and thank Leader McConnell and the Republican caucus. Up to the Democrats, they blocked it last night. Hopefully someone will figure out they're killing Americans. They're just killing Americans. They're killing jobs. They're killing businesses. And I do not have there is no it's like the Browns offense 3 years ago when we went 0-16. There's no explanation for what the Democrats are doing. Senator Thune, thank you, my friend.
Always good to be with you. Thanks, Hugh.
I really, you need to call the Senate, 202-224-3121. You need to find out who your senator is. You need to call them and say, now, get the hell out of the way and pass this bill. It's $1.8 trillion for Americans, from Americans. And then you need to take a long walk like I'm going to do after the show, thanks to ReliefFactor.com. If you haven't tried it yet and you're doing new exercise, now is the time. ReliefFactor.com. $19.95 gets you started. Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, omega. Support for the temporary relief from minor aches and pains. It doesn't hurt my headache. Doesn't help my headache with these Democrats. But it will help when I run it off and run off the stress. And I also remind you about Honorbound Coffee. 100% of the profits from honorboundcoffee.com when you subscribe and get your coffee sent to your house. 100% of the profit from every cup of coffee will go to support military families, the spouses who are left behind when the husbands and wives deploy. Please, honorboundcoffee.com. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on the Hugh Hewitt Show inside the Beltway in the ReliefFactor.com studio. And I must tell you, I have said this over and over again. You need to call the Senate today. This is Chuck Schumer's fault. This is Nancy Pelosi's fault. They are endangering the jobs of millions of Americans. They have to get out of the way. They shot the tires out of the fire truck that was rushing aid. It's $1.8 trillion, almost $2 trillion in aid to the American economy, so that people will not be laid off, so that businesses will not shutter. And don't believe a lick of their talking points. I heard Cory Booker on MSNBC. I knew we were in trouble when Cory Booker showed up and started reading talking points. It made no sense at all. All weekend long, they worked to get to yes. And then they pulled the rug out because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer perceived through some bizarre lens or because of TDS that they could not allow the country to recover if we beat the virus. I think they're afraid of success. I have no other explanation, but Mitch McConnell took to the floor of the Senate last night, and here is what he said.
I'm told the futures market is down 5%. I'm also told that that's when trading stops. So the notion that we have time to play games here with the American economy and the American people is utterly absurd. So I want to explain what just happened. Our good friends on the other side would not have been disadvantaged one bit if this vote had succeeded, because it would have required potentially 30 more hours of discussion, during which these seemingly endless negotiations could go on as long as they would like. Now, the build-up to this, so everybody fully understands, is that we had a high level of bipartisanship in 5 different working groups over the last 48 hours, where members who were participating were reaching agreement. And then all of a sudden, the Democratic leader and the Speaker of the House shows up. And we're back to square one. So we're fiddling here, fiddling with the emotions of the American people, fiddling with the markets, fiddling with our health care. The American people expect us to act tomorrow. And I want everybody to fully understand, if we aren't able to act tomorrow, it'll be because of our colleagues on the other side continuing to dicker when the country expects us to come together and address this problem. Now, I changed my vote, which gives me the opportunity to move to reconsider at a later time. That's all I can do in the face of this obstruction. Look, I can understand obstruction when you're trying to achieve something. This obstruction achieves nothing. Nothing whatsoever, other than prevent us from getting into a position where there are literally 30 more hours that they could use to continue to dicker. So at a time when the country is crying out for bipartisanship and cooperation, and we saw that over the last 48 hours when regular members of the Senate, not in the leadership office, not in the Speaker's office, for goodness sake, she's the Speaker of the House, not the Speaker of the Senate. We don't have one. We were doing just fine until that intervention. So I want the American people to fully understand what's going on here. The markets are already reacting to this outrageous nonsense. We have an obligation to the American people to deal with this emergency and to deal with it tomorrow. And if we don't, I want everybody to fully understand, you've seen everybody who's on record. Now, I've conspicuously avoided trying to turn this into any kind of partisan effort for 2 days. But it's pretty clear what's going on here. And we'll have this cloture vote again at some point of my choosing. And hopefully, some adults will show up on the other side of the room and understand the gravity of the situation and the need to act. before the markets go down further and the American people become even more depressed about our lack of ability to come together under the most extraordinary circumstances. We've never been confronted with anything like this before. It's totally different. And we're not immune to it in terms of the public health risk. Coronavirus has hit the Senate today as well. We have 5 members in self-quarantine. So everybody understands the emergency, particularly when it hits close to home. It's not just back in our states, but right here in the Senate.
That is Senator McConnell. I pray, the Catholic Information Center of Washington, D.C., CICDC.org. They have a rosary at noon or at 11:30. Pray for the Democrat. Honest to goodness, they have fallen into a moral pit, an abyss, and they need prayers from all denominations and all faiths because they have fallen into a moral abyss. I'll be back tomorrow to tell you if they climbed out. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Generalissimo. The Hugh Hewitt Show. We'll be back tomorrow.